Greetings. Welcome to the FaerySpeak. This is a program in which I channel for you. Does that sound far-fetched? Maybe. But you never know what happens when you're working in the ethers of the metaphysical world. So on this program, I am going to be doing a fairy reading into tarot cards for you. And the way this works is that you will program the cards and we will see just what you wish to see. So I have these tarot cards that I use from the Brian Fraud's Fairy Oracle, and they're rather pretty cards. This is one of them. Actually, that's number one. And so we're going to shuffle these cards, and while I'm shuffling these cards, you're going to think of a question. It's more like a question about, your life, where you're going, where you've been, the questions. I'm not going to give out a winning lottery number. I wish. I wish the cards would give me a winning lottery number. But they don't give me a winning lottery number. You know why? Because there's, for the one winner, there's a lot of people that lose. Think of all the people that put in a lottery ticket and they lose, and how negative they feel about that. That's the kind of energy that's put against the lottery ticket. Not that I wouldn't have plans. I could do some very pronounced things with some lottery money. Who knows? You might take the card numbers that I play today and you might play them and see if you win. That's up to you. It's not my intention. And if you don't win, don't write to me and say, I lost and it was your numbers and you told me to play them, because I didn't tell you to play them. So we just shuffle them any which way. Okay. So to start off with, giving them a good shuffle from the last time we did a show. And we will stand the deck, and I will ask you to cut them. I'll wait. Don't be shy. Let's see. Okay. Not really sure why we bother to cut the card, but it's always a fun thing to watch them when they do it on TV. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread out the cards relatively evenly. By the way, have you met Harry? This is Harry. You see him? I'll get it right. He's kind of mystery vital, the picture anyway. Let's see. Nope. There we go. This is Harry. His full name is called Hairy Feet. And it's because he has hairy feet. He's about 4 feet tall, about here. And, yeah. He's a friend of mine. He hangs out with me. He's a gnome. I saw a video over the weekend of a large gnome collection in Australia. And they had thousands of gnomes. There was a reason to go to Australia. Now that would be the reason for me to go. Looks like a rather energetic land. So there we go. And we have the cards all spread apart. All spread out. Now I wish for you to pick out 6 cards. We're going to pick 6 cards and read them, and then we're going to pick a 7th card and see where that goes with reflection of the cards where they go. Do you have your question yet? I bet you do. You don't have to say it out loud. You can just keep it to yourself and see if it has anything to do with the cards we read today. Now, you could change your question as we go. There's no rules here. The only rules is the ones directed towards me. But as far as you guys out there on the other end of the screen, tap, tap, tap. There's no rules for you. So, child, you pick. I'm going to run my hand along the cards, and you're going to tell me when to stop. Now, you won't know if the person that's watching on another station is telling me to stop. But somebody out there is going to tell me to stop. Ready? 6 cards. Let's see. This one? Okay. Let's try that one. It's the best place to put these. In here. This one here. Shall we do them in order? Now this one actually, there was one on top of this one that we picked. Not that I'm keeping track. How are we doing? Mostly checking my table alignment to see if I'm not cutting them off. I'm recording this in my home studio, so it's a little bit of a space issue dealing with everything set up. Right here. Oh, look at that. That was the one that we were looking at earlier. So there is 6 cards. So the way this works for me is instead of memorizing the cards and their meanings, what I do is I write a cheat sheet. The energy flows through me, through my eyes, through my third eye, into my eyes, out onto the page where I read my cheat sheet, and then I interpret what I feel is the energy of the cards. So, we will start the first card that was read, which was this card. This one right here. And if you're following along at home with your copy of the Fairy Oracle, this is number 34, Sylvanus. A rather interesting card, although they're all interesting. Truth, cutting through deception, and clarity. Now, how interesting is that? It's an interesting card. Truth, cutting through the deception, and clarity. Interesting. Now, sometimes you could pick a card up and it would be in reverse, upside down. But just for the fun of it, just for they let you know that if this was a reverse card, they are creating cracks in your ideas to let the light through to shine in. Which is kind of interesting in itself. It wasn't in reverse, but it is kind of a curious card, wouldn't you say? What's interesting is that actually none of these cards were pulled up in reverse. Often, there are at least a couple that are reversed, or vice versa. But on our pull today, hasn't been any yet. Now the next card, this is our next card. Very pretty card. All the cards are pretty. It's okay for me to say one card's prettier than the other. Epona's Wild Daughter. Any of you out there are fathers of a daughter? My blessings to you. Number 54. Now the other one was 34, and this one is 54. Epona's Wild Daughter. Inner shadows, nightmare, depression, madness, and growth. Inner shadows, nightmare, depression, madness, and growth. Interesting, isn't it? Now you're wondering, how does that connect with the card previously? Now, if you see me looking up every once in a while, it's because my camera looking at the table is actually straight up there. So I'm checking to see if it's aligned properly. As I keep moving around and reaching, and I push on the table with my big belly, and I tend to move it a little bit, and then I look to make sure that my alignment is correct. Number 12, the Singers of the Chalice. Very interesting card indeed, isn't it? Kind of looks like a chalice. This is number 12, in case anybody's writing the numbers down. The Singer of the Chalice. Trust, patience, creativity, hope, and miracles. Well, that's interesting. How is it so interesting that cards can actually be related to each other when we pick them randomly? As if you remember from our last week's show, they had their own line of connection. Spirit Dancer. Number 36. Spirit Dancer. Looks kind of like a spree you'd see along a pond or a fountain. You can see those, can't you? You might think that they're dragonflies, but then if you look closer, you're going to see the spree jumping along the water. Spirit Dancer. Number 36. Self-expression, freedom, and exploration. Huh. Now look closely to this card, because you're going to see a lady sitting on a rock. But really, take a look at that rock. The lady is really sitting on another fairy. see that? Number 30. Baluam. Unconditionally giving, unconditionally receiving. A lot of people don't understand what that really means. Unconditional love, unconditionally giving love, unconditionally receiving love. This is not saying, if you really love me, you will do this. If you really love me, you'll do this or that. Did you see what I did for you? You should do that for me. Unconditional giving and receiving is just receiving love and giving love. All it is. You walk through a forest respectfully without, dumping harmful chemicals or setting fires or just chopping down a tree for no reason at all or shooting your gun into a tree for no reason at all, That's being harmful. But if you walk through a forest with respect and careful step not to trample little things, it's unconditional love. And in exchange, you'll get that nice energy of the forest. Just for example. It could be more. So number 30 is Gulam, unconditional giving and unconditional receiving. Having no expectations of receiving love and giving love with no expectations. Kind of looks like a deer in a way, like the one in Harry Potter. Understanding the nature of nature. Isn't that funny? I was just talking about nature. Understanding the nature of nature. Nature, wisdom, and natural magic. Well, that's all very interesting. If you look really close, you could even see some eyes in there. So it's not just, there's actually a fairy energy on that card. And this is the font, 35. So where do we leave us with all this? Number 4, 34, Sylvanius, truth cutting through deception and clarity. 54, inner shadows, nightmare, depression, and madness. Have you thought about your question and how it relates to this particular reading? It's rather interesting when you think about it. Number 12, trust, patience, creativity, hopes, and miracles. So all these cards are all around conditional, unconditional love and unconditional receiving of love. You have to have trust in order to be unconditional, don't you? If you were living in fear, for example, you can't exactly trust somebody if you're living in fear. 56. 36, sorry. Spirit dancer, self-expression, freedom, and exploration. Well, certainly you cannot give unconditionally and receive unconditionally if you're not have freedom of your self-expression. If you live in fear about being able to say what's in your heart. See what I say? It's kind of interesting how they all tie together. Unconditional giving and receiving. It's a curious thing. Now we have to pick another card. Are you thinking about it? What card would you like to pick? How about this one? Would you like this one? Or would you like the one that's right under there? Let's go for the one under there. Actually, let's go for these three cards. So what do we have here? We have this one, the Piper, upside down. We have this one, another upside down one. And then we have this one, also upside down. How about that? Maybe because they were all next to each other, I don't know. So, we have the Fairy Grandmother, number 25. I'm going to put them here. Remember, they're upside down, but just so I can read the numbers, I'm going to put them right side up on front of me. The Piper, number 24, in case we're keeping track of our numbers. And this one, 55. Soul Sprinter. I wouldn't say this is a pretty looking one. I can't say it's a pretty looking one. Don't tell them I said that though. Oh, we have number 25, the Fairy Grandmother, holding an apple and a crystal. Gifts, talents, grace, and helpful lessons. Yeah, grandmothers. Gifts, talents, grace, helpful lessons. But this one was in reverse. So this one here, our daily lives or things are harder than they need to be. Now how does that compare to what we already read? Unconditional love, given and received. Things are harder than they need to be. When you put conditions on things, they are a lot harder to manifest, aren't they? The Pipers. The Pipers, music, order, harmony, seduction, and empathy. Though it was upside down, so if someone is memorized, lost in a dream, stagnating, so vague, and diffused, lost in a dream, which means that you're spending too much time fantasizing than you are in actually walking the walk and talking the talk. Movie I was watching before I set up this shoot was now I forgot the name of the movie. There you go. Walter Smitty. Where he lived most of his life in fantasy until he stepped out of it and started living his life. So that's kind of where the Piper is. It's often get wrapped up in the dream of life, living in the fantasy and not staying, centered within yourself. Which was the last show, the first show, episode 1. We talked a lot about staying centered and focused. The Soul Sprinter, number 55. Soul Shrinker. Soul Shrinker. soul shrinker, cruelty, malice, gossip, curses, destruction, and blessings. But we had it in reverse. Malice, vicious gossip, cruelty are occurring somewhere in this situation, moving to blessings and positive feedback. It's easy to get wrapped up in gossip, hearsay, fake news. Do I say more about that? Look for the truth within and stay in the present. Step out of the fantasies. Well, that was an interesting read, don't you think? Very interesting indeed. Well, that was a very interesting read. I hope you enjoy this. We'll do some more. Please call or send an email to CTSB if you'd like to see this kind of thing and you'd like to see more episodes of it. I'll continue to present these as long as I feel the need or the desire is existing out there. If you wish to be in person, if you wish to participate in a read in the CTSB during a show, we don't necessarily have to put you on the screen. We don't have to put a mic on you. You can just pull the cards and then sit down, and then we could do the reading. It could be fun. Could be very fun. But until next time, the fairy speaks for you.